So I'm really excited to talk about this finally. Basically, the whole reason why I did every other episode was to be able to talk about this. So, this is basically what I've come to discover about life and what I do believe about life. And in no way am I saying that any one of you have to believe in the things that I do. And at the same time, there are so many corresponding things about the life that I believe that are part of a lot of other people's belief that have been researched and known through out past true history, if you will. I mean, that's up to you what you want to believe. If you wish to believe the things that we were taught were history, or if history is written by the victors. And yet there is still so much about history when you dive into the books of the world all around, and they speak of so many beautiful things that correspond with how much, in fact, we are all similar at the core of every belief, and that the choices that we make are from the experiences of condition that we were raised in, and that in truth we have free will and choice to change any moment of that in any moment of time, and that literally our lives are written by our thoughts and alignment of within ourselves. And the true magic of each of us is that we have superpowers beyond we just can't even comprehend, depending on what reality you're residing in. And what I mean by that is about frequency of sound, light, chakras, all of that. We literally are taught in ways the answers and keys to everything, and yet not taught how to utilize them in a way of that missing piece and link, which is actually us. The missing link is our knowing of within, the connection with source and the all of everything which we are a part of. At the moment, most of us are disconnected because of the shattered being within us that is still trying to forgive itself and realize that everything is what we believe we deserve. That our lives that we live and the lives of the reality that we see is literally what we believe that we deserve and people deserve, etc., etc. And when we're able to shift, it's just that fine line. When we're able to shift that and accept that we are a part or responsible for what we see and what we choose to see as a perspective of what we believe life to be, that little fine line of shift into the most amazing life that you wish for but don't actually at the moment believe you deserve unless you're living it, it shows you that it's very possible based on just yourself and the beliefs that you have of yourself and everything about life. And it's a beautiful gift, and while very bumpy, the highest highs, the lowest lows bring you to your highest highs, but the highest highs also show you your lowest lows, and so on and so forth, and constantly forever. But it brings you to the most beautiful of places, and it's up to you how you see those. And from there is when life just constantly changes. As you get to the new layer of perspective, you see a whole new layer and difference, and it's always expansive, always forward, but yet wavy. Anyways, let's get into it. So I'm just going to talk here about the things that I believe, the things that help me to figure it out. But I'm not going to break down into every little detail here. I mean, I am going to in time, in many different episodes, which I'm sorry, I'm not going to keep track of for everybody because I literally just speak freely and what I'm led to speak. And so let's get started. So basically, my whole life, I have always wanted to know the answers to life. And then I was told that I would have all the answers to life, and that because it's the way that I would like things. I was the one who wanted to come up with figuring out the answers to life that I believe to be the answers to life through my path. And that is why it was a path that I chose, because it literally was in my belief, the soul contract that I chose, the life that I chose, but in human life that I chose. And that is something that is for all of us. We all in this realm that we live in to even live here. So there is no way this doesn't exist for you. If you're here residing on earth, living, this is also part of what was innate available to you. And that is the power of free will and choice. Free will and choice is literally in every moment of time, down to the littlest millisecond of time that you don't even know exists, of the choice at hand for you about the experience you wish to experience, and therefore creates before you in every millisecond of, like I said, in God particle time, let's call it. In God particle timing, that it's what you experience. And so getting into this literally goes back into if you're in school or not. I'm not sure if people aren't in school, like old tribes and stuff, do they know about dinosaurs? I'm sure they do through ancient histories. In truth, that's funny is because while I've heard of the different beings that these ancient people talk of, besides them also having the footprint and dinosaur print right beside each other, the human footprint and dinosaur print right beside each other, cemented in stone, besides, like, they don't really talk about dinosaurs because I feel like everything was just accepted as a part of what creation was until we come into the unconscious time, because basically, like I said. Okay, so when we get into this story, please, there's a few things that to keep in mind. How all experience is. All experience is a wave. Okay, the ups and downs, and it's also the ripple. When you look at it from this person, okay, so this is the wave. The sideways view is the wave. The on top view is the ripple. And if you can use your imagination there, I mean, in future, when I have like graphic artists and stuff, I'll definitely, I mean, I could do it and I can put images in, but I did that in the beginning and it's not something I wish to do. And so I'm not going to do it. But I mean, in future, as the tribe is coming in, it's awesome. The graphic artist can help you guys visualize. But I actually, in truth, the reason why I didn't want to do images, even though I did do images because of the people in my life that said that I should for their communicative, how they are able to receive information. And that's understandable. I get it. But at the same time, when I did it, I didn't do it the way that they expected, which didn't make them happy either. And so nothing makes us happy. And so I'm just going to do it the way I wish to. And from there, as teams come in, we can collaborate together to create amazingness. You know, this is why each of us have our skill set to help put together into a team of cooperation and collaboration. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And one thing I've always lived with was always saying that, and this is because of working young and having hours and hours while working to contemplate and think. So I worked young, but I'm not getting into that either at the moment. Those are in other episodes. Point being that you realize that you don't have to do certain jobs because other people love to do those jobs. So why are you doing stuff that you don't enjoy when other people literally do not mind or love to do those jobs? And so we should allow them to, and then we should do our thing, because what we wish to do doesn't necessarily mean it's what they wish to do. And so the puzzle pieces, all fall into place, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And with that, it also goes along with personality and where you're at in life lessons and what you're okay to take on and not. And we're all in fluctuating places of existence. And, to understand this thing is what makes it so amazing that everything is working. It's just that we're trying to see it from a certain perspective. And because we can't understand things from that certain perspective, we just give up because, we're taught about the one answer, and in truth there's so many. And then when you open up to that, you realize the truth of all answers is the truth to all answers. And it's so beautiful. All right, so the wave. Okay, so the ups and downs, realizing it's always a roller coaster in so many things. And then also the patterns. There's lots of patterns and lessons. When I get into the story so the patterns and lessons I'm talking about is actually cellular structure, DNA, stardust, the vacuum space expansion. It's so much. I mean, even in that vacuum that I'm talking, and the expansion, the contract, retract. Oh, I always mix that one up because I always say it as the same thing. But this motion, the pulse, I call it, is constant. it's constant. And when you recognize that it is to the tiniest particle to the most grand particle, and as some people don't like the saying, but as above, so below, all of it tells you and shows you how much that in any part of life, and I literally mean any, pick it, whatever you say, from there, it will lead you down to the core of truth and back up to the expansiveness of truth. And then you have the whole truth of everything. And everything is that way. That's why you can literally say, anything is like life. Like so many people who are passionate in what they do always say, oh, I can relate it back to life, and not think that everyone can relate anything back to life, because it is life. And while it's a beautiful thing that was able for you to relate back to life, it is also something that everyone can do in whatever perspective that they wish, which is a very beautiful thing, again, because if you think about that times how many, how much, and then from there the expansiveness of that calculation past there, and you start realizing the calculation of expansiveness in ripples and how it starts at a slower pace into a accelerated pace, you would it's all the formulation of creation of what we're a part of the moment. And this is up to you if you believe it or not, but this is something I definitely do, that moment of the coming together into the accumulation of that awareness into the big bang of expansion, and that coming back in together into that big bang, and it's that constant expansion, and that's that pulse that I'm talking about. And realizing that in every moment that you expand, you also grow in that expansion. So when you come back, you're an actually even bigger piece of more, and then you expand, and then that's a constant, eternal, forever, infinite intelligence, which now we are a part of in what they say 14 billion years later, well 3.8 whatever now because the decimal points, and that is what we're told. And is that necessarily what it is? And in that fact, it doesn't truly matter, because just the fact that they can calculate what it is in that moment gives you an guesstimation of where we can start even beginning a platform of understanding these things. And that is a very beautiful thing. And then realizing how far that goes and how far forward that goes, and then realizing about time. And okay, so getting into life. So what we were taught, if you were raised in a beautiful school system, and I'm not trying to talk against the system, there are certain things, as everything, that are pros and cons. That's another thing to recognize in our whole life. While there is good, bad, dark, evil, light, dark, and then the other one I just said before this, while that exists, right, wrong, while that exists, it also does not exist. And that is another thing to understand about everything, is the duality of everything. That to exist, it doesn't exist, and to not exist allows it to exist. And it's this constant everything, constantly recognizing that the duality and the contrast, the polarity, that is what allows us, the black and the white, is what allows us to see the differences of what then exists. Meaning that if everything was all black, we wouldn't know what exists. And if everything was all white, we wouldn't know what exists. But because we have the black and the white, we know, and we have a comparison, that now we can see what exists and what doesn't exist. And then from there, there's so much. Because then the duality breaks off into what I'm talking about, the calculations of the formulations of the spiral, and that's what we're getting into. So the DNA recognizes also a spiral, so many things, and now let's get into it. So basically in school we were taught about the dinosaurs, and which reptiles and mammals, and then how in evolution of time that happened. As well, I don't want to forget the ocean, in the ocean where it all started, and then they say they came out onto the land, which then led to dinosaurs and mammals. Point being the necessity of water for life, but as well, like all that time in the water to create all that different life, and then onto the earth. So within that, I don't know if people can extend past in because right now it's not that I'm time traveling, it's more I'm taking it onto expanded manner of space and universe, because a lot of people who would think about life that I just described there with the mammals and the reptiles would look very you would literally be seeing the reptiles and the mammals, and perhaps you saw fur, and perhaps you saw the paw of the dinosaur print or whatever. And now we're going to expand it out into the universe, literally looking out and seeing Earth and now pass, and being all that stardust and all that kind of stuff, and looking in now on that life, and then coming back down into it. So realizing that just because we were taught that life started there, that's when life on Earth started. But it doesn't mean that that's when life started. And now it depends on how you see life. Like, do you see planets as life? Do you believe on life on other planets, etc.? And these are questions that I had dealt with, and I'm going to go into it with all of you as well, because those are some of the questions I want to talk about and for you to contemplate, for people who haven't even indulged in those thoughts, or even sparked those thoughts, or decided to, because they think it's a bad thing to think, or maybe it's too vast and scary for them to think. But basically, these are all thoughts that I thought of that brought me even to here. So, point being that life existing on other planets, being way more intelligent than we can even comprehend, coming then onto Earth and watching this kind of stuff happen, not just that, having their kind of dramas happen on this Earth, and also then experimenting with, genetic coding and DNA, and then creating us. So literally creating humans. Now, when I say creating humans, I don't mean that they literally created us from nothing. Basically, they had foundation from the coding of the reptilian and the mammalian, as well as many other coding, as well as mixed in with their genetic coding to create the human beings as we are today. And there is proof behind this in so many ways, and so many cultures talk about this, and even actually in the Bible and all this kind of stuff, it all talks about this. And when you go back into like the pyramids and the ancient Aztec and Inca, and also the Mayans, and all the cultures in Hindu, and then back into China that they hide, and even the Tartarian, and there's so many past cultures that we don't really talk about, that their literature and remnants of what they have, even in monks and Tibetan, all talk about these certain things. And it's about, and our chromosomes and DNA even give away the numbers that it is. And this is the knowledge that, the secret societies of deeper times, I don't want to say darker necessarily, but it is, because they were the ones that had to try to keep humanity in a manner of order while the chaos was happening of unconsciousness. Because as I was saying, as we dip into the darkness, right, because we have to realize of the cycles of the higher consciousness, lower consciousness, with the sun cycle, moon cycle, everything is a factory in the way that we when you understand energy, the big bodies of energy, and how much effect there is in the magnetic pull, and then also the when they refract and don't want to even be close together, there's so much to it when you understand the properties of how energy and everything works, and then are able to apply it on the scale of the most minuscule to the most macro. And so anyways, what I'm talking about is that these beings created us with genetic coding that is so magical. And literally within our ourselves, we are told about the reptilian brain, and then the mammalian brain. And then it's about the fear factor, ego factor, because it's about frequency. And it's not about looking at it from a I'm better than view or this view. It's literally just from a view of these are the facts, and from there what that calculates into a formulation of, and so that is your experience. And it's not about saying this is better or worse for experience, it's literally experience. And then also understanding that the choice of experience is of our own. It literally is of our own. We can create it. And so within the human everything, because we have this energy potential within us, we literally choose what we vibrate at. We choose what our cell vibration is, and this is what the chakras are, and everything. And so when you start understanding that higher consciousness times came before us and will come after us, and perhaps we're even going into that time. Not even perhaps, we actually are, because when we get into like the stuff that I learned, which is amazing, because this is another thing. There are people literally that know what's going on, and we've known for centuries, and it's about us just going along with the flow. But what's come out of it is because of the processes of the lower times, higher times, in the low times, it's such destructive manner that coming back from it, which is, I mean, so fun within itself, because pats on the back for coming out of that. And that's why we choose to experience it. But we forget is because literally the frequencies of experience that we're existing in cannot necessarily be known of or experienced in certain frequencies, meaning that the frequencies that are closer together, of course, will experience closer together. But when you add other stuff, these ones don't necessarily feel what's going on here. And these ones don't necessarily feel what's going on here. And it goes on further and further. And so it's interesting. I mean, everything in life talks about all of this. You can, like, I like to personally talk about cymatics. Cymatics is about sound, and how when you put sand or whatever you want to put with sound, how the different frequencies literally show you the material realm properties of what that sound will create. So when you hit lower sound, it literally creates a more simple pattern than when you hit it with a higher frequency. The pattern is more complex. And that also tells you about life as how everything is simple and complex, and that is the duality of it. And so the extremes are simple and complex, and yet all in between are the degrees and patterns of the simple to complex and the complex to simple, and then the middle, and then also the entirety of all of that equaling to the all of everything in that experience. And that, what I said right there, is literally the answers and key to life in every aspect of everything. It is always what extremes you wish to put, the balances in between, and the degrees in which we can experience, and the depths and densities of whatever, and then the all of it being what it is. And understanding that is the beauty of everything. And so within that, these beings came to create us. And we literally are living in a time now where we are being invited to be a species in this galactic time, given that we are able to, as a species, rule, and I hate to say rule, but rule ourselves, to be responsible for ourselves as a humanity, not needing other beings to watch over us. As well, those other beings, their karma are within us because of the cellular structure that is a part of them, as well, that they became a part of our story. And karma is always created there when we become a part of each other's story, and then there's lots of healing involved. And so basically what I'm saying in layman's terms, in ways of society, I suppose, and please don't take layman's as a bad thing, it really just is the more simple form. I'm basically saying that yes, there's other life on Earth. It's far beyond what we perceived it to be. Yes, they are way more intelligent. They've literally been waiting millennia for their creation, which is us, to become more conscious because of this timing. And we are living in this aligned time, which is a prophesized time. And literally, we are our own saviors that raise our own frequencies to experience higher, and that heaven and hell are about frequency. That a hell frequency is a more lower frequency being of state of being, and the heaven factor is a more high frequency state of being, and that we literally get to determine what that is. And you can literally bring heaven on earth and experience that as a reality, or you can bring hell on earth and experience that as a reality. And then we have the combined effort, and this is why earth is such a special place, because literally 7 billion of us and more can experience these realities. And a big amount of people who are at the moment in control of everything and own a lot. I mean, when you break down into the banking system, into the government, into healthcare, into education, into literally all the systems that we believe is first world countries, you will begin to see that it comes down to a core people that own these industries, corporations, and that not all of it is actually good for the human well-being and psyche of its own. We have living proof that that is what the human experience is, human material realm experience, as well as all the other things going on which lead to the physical that we literally see, is human living proof. It's literally living proof. Our lives are living proof, and you can just watch anyone experiencing and witness everything. As well, your life is your experience to witness, as well as to what reality is, if you wish. So going into that, Being a part of the system is literally a choice. It's up to you. And there are many beautiful things in the system, sure. But the system is also corrupt in the way that they've been around for a very long time. And when you understand that people can get tainted in their view and get lost in their vision of where they first started, and it's not a bad thing. Not just that. When you think of someone for a long time, you really got to times this by generations, because these people have been here holding on to this as their duty, thinking. And I mean, that's another thing about cycles too, is that's why we go through the dark ages into the golden age and the cycles of that, and why the time is extended for the lighter cycles, and why it's the time is smaller for the darker cycles, is because literally our destruction is that quick. And yet when we are in higher states, we can be expanded for that long. And yet as we're expanded that long, we lose the appreciation, and we start, as we move on, not remembering the things of past. And so we wish to experience those things again, which bring us down into those depths. But then diving into those depths, bring us back into this light. And that's the cycle we're literally living constantly. And the beauty of the dualism and the God like gold frequency that we live and experience and become a part more of source in our expanded nature. And like at the beginning, I was talking about how it does that constantly. That is what we're all a part of. Our souls are a part of all of that. So literally the story that I have is that our souls are a shattered piece of the all being source, which many people would call God. And God is not necessarily, I mean, it's whatever you wish God to be, but for me, God is a huge energy source of infinite intelligence and all-knowing, and creates and loves unconditionally so much, and has experienced everything to the absolute, everything. So all of the best feelings, all of the worst feelings, all of the worst things you can think of, all of the best things you can think of, and experience those all to the extremes, absolution, and yet experiences through us even more so into those experiences and of our growth as we learn to propel, to expand our knowledge and understanding of them, to heal them as well, heals then in turn the huger source as well at the same time. And that's how we all expand. And so that is, I don't know if you've ever noticed in coincidences, or why when you're going through something, it seems to be around you. And in science, it was also shown and proven in a way where they didn't understand that in monkeys, when they were eating, they would often just eat until one monkey realized that you could rinse it in water. And then all of a sudden, all across the globe, the consciousness of the monkeys all would rinse their food in the water. And now they didn't understand how that happened so quickly. And in that, it tells you the acceleration of all expansion of when people get to know. And I mean, they literally say that there's nothing faster than word of mouth. I mean, there is like all the media, sure, but it is the word of mouth. And through this, we can start to understand, especially if you believe in the connection of the all, that when you are conscious and connected, that literally what you think can also be a part of the all consciousness. And so people have the ability to tap into that if they wish to, and so will then get inspired thoughts of the same thing. And literally, we all live that constantly. Everything in my life, in symbolism, in song, in everything, is literally all a part of what is in my life as this. I mean, when we get into symbolism, even that's even more. Anyways, point being that the story of all this is that everything is watching Earth at the moment, because we're literally living in a time where we are standing into our power. We're literally standing in our power. And if you can see that in the most expansive way as a global humanity, and standing all the way back down into your core of just yourself and then all those around you, you can also see that propulsion of pulse happening. Yeah. Anyways, I apologize if the way I talk is not an easy formulation to follow, but at the same time, like, this is how I talk now. And it's funny is because I was working on a communication a few years back while I was starting these videos and into these videos, and it's been a few years now, which is crazy. And the way that I talked, I thought I was working into a way where people could better understand me. And I'm not trying to say that people can't better understand me now, because actually the understanding is coming from a different form. It literally is what resonates. And from there, how you take the words that I say, and not literally the words that I say, and for some maybe. But at the same time, the words that I use now and when they come out and where they go are completely different than what I was expecting or thinking. The story that I was wanting to tell you all these years was not how I thought it was going to come out here. Literally, and I mean, I guess it's because we'll get further into it with images, but if you go back into the Inca with the moon temple, sun temple, and the feather serpent temple, that literally is telling you mammal, serpent, so reptilian, mixed together into one. And then you go into all the other ancients and you start seeing these blue beings, all that blue, and also that blue in tattoos that was revered as, this holy thing. And also then you go into find out about it's the colors. It's that red and the blue, and then you realize that's the color of our veins as humans in the capillaries. And then you also notice about what chakras those hit, and then you start noticing the vibrations it means. And I mean, and then not just that, the colors of Earth and the chakras of Earth. And, does chakras really hit for planets as well? And do they hit for solar systems? And then it's like, so then literally these energy centers that are going through star systems and planets and universes and galaxies are also within the human, which is also the music and the symphonies, as well as the light forms of rays. And you start realizing that all of this is just energy forms, and we're all a part of that. And within that means that literally we are the consciousness that can control our energy and the frequency. And when we realize that power, it literally changes life. And that is exactly the secret to life. And yeah, anyways, excited to share with you guys. So that is the simple form of the complex. And then we're going to get into all the in between, which is literally all the lives and past lives that we've lived and chosen to experience in every manner or form, in all different types of lifetimes and beings and species and experiences to, become who we are in this moment of time. And most of us at the moment, not fully aware of our true full power of how deep we actually go because of what in the limiting moment of how we were raised in experience in this lifetime, that we don't allow ourselves to go within to the depths of ourselves, and yet some have and are the inspiration for others to dive there, because it cannot be helped. It just cannot be helped. And that is why some people feel bad about making people feel uncomfortable. And then why we feel uncomfortable is because it is that moment of a change in that vibration. And yet, if you do feel uncomfortable, you ask for that because you were around in that surrounding to be around that person. And so while we feel bad for causing that, it was a part of what was necessary and what that person asked for, even if seemingly unconscious in the moment, to be around to affect them, to also change the vibration. And in truth, all of our solar system galaxy has just changed its vibration, which causes Earth and all of the planets and the moon and everything and the stars here to change its vibrancy, which has led us as humans to change our vibrancy, and which is why we're all going through this change of vibrancy. And now it's about settling into this and then becoming most authentic self and living what you actually wish to believe is life, and being and allowing everyone to do so. And it's such a beautiful thing. Anyways, to all our healing and for all the truth coming out. And I'll be honest, there's nothing to be afraid of but fear itself. And fear itself is an illusion of what you create. So if you decide to face those fears, you'll realize that poof, they're gone, and there really is nothing to fear, and that all that is left is really love and choice of experience. And that is up to you. And that's what we're heading all together in as a humanity, because that literally is the energy of the times we're living in. And that's why it was able to be prophesized as to, cha-ching, we've won, and now we're just living it out. And it's such a beautiful time. So as we talk about this further, I literally am here as my intention to help you to experience better and to help you to choose to experience the potentiality of what you believe that, we deserve to live as a humanity. At the same time as what you believe is, if it's into the darker forms, I mean, that's up to you. But everything that I live is into the love form and into the positivity. So while that might be your intention, it might change and you might have to learn to accept that. And that's just part of your lesson, into it all. In truth, I mean, it's so fun. We're going to be exploring the light and dark aspects of everything, because that is what makes everything. And I am going to be honest with you. You have nothing to be scared of as we explore the dark depths of whatever you wish and how far you wish to go. I'm not forcing in any way, but I will be here helping you to protect yourself in every way possible with light and love of your choosing. So everything is of your choosing. It has nothing to do with me, except for that I am here to help guide you and inspire you in ways in which you can help yourself to create these things, because it is very much about the self-talk and the wording and the beliefs and all of that create exactly what we're into. And I am here also to help you inspire questions and expand versions and visions of where you didn't even know or even resonate normally but didn't know how to word. And I'm just here for that kind of inspiration. So whatever you need. As well, when I talk, I want you to know that everything I talk about is actually literally backed by tons of philosophy and science and books of past and wisdom from masters, and literally amazing masters and teachers of past. And if you're interested in any of it, just go dive into it yourself, and I'm going to help you be led by your intuitive researching as I have come into it. And it actually was, I mean, a lot of what I'm helping you build here is self. It's your own self foundation of belief in resonant form to help you to listen to yourself, to create that pulse and vibration of happiness and joy and love that we've all wished to experience. And literally it will be unfolding before you, because you will be choosing freely within yourself to experience those things. And that's what I'm helped here to guide you to. And as we all do that individually, it helps to expand into humanity globally, and that's literally how we change the entire world's experience of what we're experiencing. And that's why forgiveness is key, forgiveness of self and others, because we have already been forgiven by Source God Creator completely and universe for millennia. Really, it's just that we haven't forgiven ourselves in a way and taken it into action, and so we are here. And so the reactionary states of us is what causes these things, which is why we've come into a time of conscious awareness and breathing, so that literally we choose action before reaction, and in there changes everything. And so please be thankful to the people who allowed for these times for us to build, for us to see, because it took these dark depths of where we have come in humanity to be able to see where we have come and to choose to create different. And so to me, there's always only ever thankful appreciativeness for that, because it literally took ourselves that far in depth before we chose to literally choose to take action upon that and to make sure that it is not that experience. And so the fault is also within ourselves, as well as the beauty. It's just that constant that infinite back and forth of the whole part of, again, the positive, negative of it, and yet it's how you view it. And so the yin yang of it, that in the positive is negative and in the negative is positive. And so all of us have a completion of both parts and existence of this lesson to learn. And so there's only gratefulness, is because it could have only been learned because of this contrast of what it is. And so when we can come to that and understand the lessons, and then be thankful for the lessons, for what they teach us and where they bring us, that is when we come from a foundation of true understanding and love, and then which we are more observant and patient in choice of creation, and then we allow, and that changes everything. Yeah. Where we're headed is quite a beautiful place, and I just wanted to thank each and every one of you for taking the time, the most beautiful time, and trust in yourself and the divine for helping to create this reality, because it truly is more than possible, because we are all possible. I love you, humanity. I love each and every single one of you. And that's what happens when you love yourself, because you realize everything that's within you is possible for all. And so it really is within your choosing who you choose to experience. Choose you, choose love, choose what's authentic and feels good to you, and not what you think is supposed to, not what other people tell you, not what you think other people would, and not what you think you should be, but literally what feels good fully. And when you feel bad for that, that's judgment. Because when you feel good fully and you're okay with that, trust me, other people wish that for you, and then you help inspire them to choose it for themselves. And life literally changes, and you realize there was nothing to stress about, that we can literally just chill, relax, enjoy. And yeah, it's very possible. And I'm not living in a fairy tale thing. But you, most of you, will not understand until you come into expanded states of being. And that's what I'm here to help you to choose. So, no judgments. Literally, you got to forgive yourself for all of those judgments and just release. And this is going to be a constant cycle that we're going to be continuing. And I want you to understand that it's like any other skill. When you first take something on, it seems like work, and then it gets into habit, and then you don't think about it anymore, and then you can do more, and then more and more and more, and then before you realize, you're doing 45, 50, 100,000 different things in one moment that you thought you couldn't even do one thing, and now you're doing all of that. And that's literally human experience, and why time feels fast and how we expand is because from a young person to an adult, that literally is what we're doing. And I'm just here to show you the different aspects in which we can do that in a different form, and not just physical, but literally in the mental, emotional, spiritual, and then you'll have the completion of the 4 dimensions of which we're actually living. But in truth, we're living even more. But what I mean is the 4 dimensions bringing into the material realm of physical experience, which is meant to be for Earth. And then we can explore the further, and raise Earth to that as well. So anyways, love you all. That was fun. I hope you were able to get whatever you were able to out of that. And I guess I'm going to be excited to do my story of Earth again in the manner. But I did get to talk about our capillaries and veins being the blue and red, about being, fire, water. Not really, but I've talked about it. But I mean, if you can see the blue and red, that's fire, water, as well as the aspects of which the patterns of we are, as well as the reptilian mammalian within us that lead to these royal blue bloodlines, and the what they consider the red skin bloodlines. Did I just plug some stuff in there? Yeah, that's why this stuff is fun. Very, very fun. And it leads back to the true history of what is going on here with our governments of the crown and the indigenous tribes, and how far back this really goes. And how this is actually about Earth and other beings. And in truth, we're here together as a combined. And that's why in our being, in our forms, that is up to us what we decide is experience. So love you all, and very excited for these times, because we're going to be talking about it in so many different ways. I cannot wait for you to see the intention of our creations as we expand further. And when I say that, it's because the tribe is here, and there are more and more coming, and we're about to blast off. And I thank you for being here, because it's going to be so fun. And that's one of my favorite things to do, is have fun with all of you in the most joyous, loving ways. Mwah! Lots of love, and enjoy life in all those moments. And don't forget that even in the worst of moments, there's still enjoyment to be found. But you don't have to force yourself to smile. It's more about appreciating the moment for what it brings, for you to see where it takes you, what it took you, and where you wish to go, So, lots of love, and lots of light and healing. And literally, it's your choice what you allow.